Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon-Tony. In an online auction, someone paid $175,000 for Princess Leia's gold bikini from Return of the Jedi.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. I don't know how I did that. I was trying to order takeout, and I guess honestly, Mike, I may have overpaid. It's a little snug.
Yeah.
That's funny. Come on.
Takeout.
It's a funny line.
Takeout.
It's a little snug.
Do you ever order takeout? Have you ever ordered takeout in your life?
Sure. I've just asked somebody else to pick it up. I don't actually do that.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Olympic swimming, the Dodgers add Jack Flaherty, and Buster Olney joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with Team USA easily topping South Sudan just a week and a half after nearly losing to that team in an exhibition game. Jason Tatum started for the U.S. after never getting off the bench against Serbia. The U.S. built a big lead in the first half. They never looked back. They won 103-86. Wilbon, you predicted an easy win. What are your thoughts on today's result?
Yeah, Tony, this wasn't that hard. After that first game you referred to 10 days ago, in which South Sudan, a country that has reportedly, 0 indoor basketball courts. None.
Yeah, I read that.
Scared the daylights out of this team with the last possession that could have resulted in a South Sudan victory. You can call it a friendly, you can call it whatever you want. The United States losing in basketball would still be a big deal. They won that game by 1, and you knew they were going to treat this game with the sort of the proper respect. Appropriate fear, I think is what Steve Kerr called it. Might be stealing that from his old coach, Greg Popovich. Whatever the case, Tony, I don't have much in the way of thoughts on this game. I think I texted you yesterday. I said 38 was my over-under on margin of victory for the U.S. team.
Yeah.
Okay, I went a little crazy, but this was going to be the blowout. They were going to take it seriously. They were going to be the better team, which they should be. As Chris Rock famously once said, you don't get a lot of credit for doing what you're supposed to do. This is what we're supposed to do to South Sudan.
Yeah, as a result, Team USA is now into the quarterfinals, where they will face at some point down the road stiffer competition. The last game really was a wake-up call because I'm sure the American players said, wait a second, we had to score in the last seconds of this game to beat South Sudan? Come on, we got to do better than that. That went from the coach down. I will give people out there the exact text exchange from yesterday. Exact. I wrote you, U.S. will beat South Sudan by 30. Jason Tatum will be no worse than the third leading scorer. I was wrong about that. He only had 4 points. And you sent back this exact text. I told Don, your brother, my over-under is 38. So we both thought they would win big, bigger than they actually won.
We overbid.
Yes, but neither of us thought thered be another embarrassment. And so that's all we got.
That's right. No doubt. There'll be more important basketball stories to come. We had some major swimming stories at the Paris Olympics today. Swimming stories. In the pool, Katie Ledecky won gold in the 1500 by more than 10 seconds. Dominant as usual. It's her 12th career Olympic medal, including 8 gold. And over at the Seine, organizers finally cleared triathletes to swim in the river. So that drama now done and out of here. Which of these developments, Tone, was bigger to you?
The biggest swim development would have been had Katie Ledecky not won the 1500. Because she wins the 1500 all the time. Going into this 1500, she had the 19 fastest times of all time, and now she's got the 20 fastest times of all time. She set an Olympic record today. So I mean, it's a fairly new race. Until the last Olympics, women didn't go beyond 800 meters. Katie Ledecky was dominant, I believe, at 800, and she's more dominant at 1500. The larger swim story tonight, tomorrow, and the next day will be how many triathletes come down with E. coli bacteria illness and how many have to be hospitalized. Because you can't really believe for a second that if the river was filled with E. coli yesterday, that it suddenly magically disappeared. Did the mayor of Paris go in today? No, I don't think so. I read a lot of quotes by a lot of people. They were basically the same. They went like this. The water tasted terrible and it looked brown. And so I thought that on those boats, the rescue boats where the people are swimming, I just assumed they had bacteriologists on that boat. And I assumed, Mike, that when they had the gold medal, they also put you on an IV as soon as they gave you the gold medal.
Tony, I'm glad you talked about that, but I couldn't care less about it. We knew this was coming. We talked about it. You and I for 3 days have said you people are dopes for trying to even have triathletes swim in the Seine. And I've said all the big city rivers, I love them all. So I got broken to big cities. I like to sit at cafes to eat sitting by the river, not drinking what's in the river.
Not in the river.
But I don't care about that.
Not in the river.
Not in the river. Not in. I do care about Katie Ledecky. Tony, the 20 fastest times, Tony, she was out so far ahead. It was great to hear Michael Phelps in studio talk about training sometimes with Katie Ledecky and how he would marvel at her training routine. Come on now. Michael Phelps, the most decorated, I think, Olympian. What's he got? 18 medals ever of all time in anything? And he's saying, no. She's the GOAT. I found that whole thing compelling. And let me go off book for a second. Léon Marchand of France, 200 butterfly, 200 backstroke, wins twice in front of the home folks. The roar of the crowd there seemed to just come right through the television set. I was like, my God, if that was one place I wanted to be this week, it would be at the swimming venue. You know how exciting the swimming venue is at any Olympics, but this one particularly.
You undersold Phelps. Phelps has 28 medals. And I'll just say this. When they started talking yesterday about going from a triathlon to a duathlon, then they'll go to the unoathlon and making all this stuff up. The triathlon in the Olympics is a terrible insult to the greatest Olympic event there is, the decathlon, the deca, the 10.
It is.
Let's move to baseball.
Totally
the Dodgers probably picked up the best available starting pitcher yesterday when they traded for the Tigers' Jack Flaherty. Flaherty was 7-5 with a 2.95 ERA in Detroit. But Wilbon, the question here is, what is more important for the Dodgers? Getting Flaherty or how Clayton Kershaw performs tonight against Dylan Cease and the Padres?
You'll be annoyed at my answer. It doesn't matter in the least. You need one of those guys from here to October 1st, and then separately in the postseason, you need one of them to be, if not dominant, really good and great occasionally, particularly in certain starts. It doesn't matter which one. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's Clayton Kershaw. There are acquisitions that take place, and particularly pitchers over time, where people come in and they supplant the incumbent. So if Flaherty, who's done this, and by the way, he hasn't done it in the last 3 years, he was great with the Cardinals in the late teens. I'm thinking 2017 and 18 particularly. If he flashes that form, Tony, and gets back to that, and then Kershaw is great in support, it doesn't matter which one is Koufax and which one is Drysdale. Can you get both those guys going simultaneously, and can one be really good the rest of the way? I don't care which one it is.
There's a sexy hook for the game against the Padres. First of all, the Padres made great moves in the baseball trading deadline, and they're the closest team in the division to the Dodgers. And Dylan Cease pitched a no-hitter his last time out against the Washington Nationals. So that makes it sexy for Kershaw. I think we need to point out here that Flaherty is a rental. He is on an expiring contract. You don't know that he'll be with this team next year. We're only talking about this year. Although, if I'm not mistaken, Mike, he grew up in L.A. He pitched at Harvard Westlake High School with Lucas Giolito and Max Fried. That's a pretty good high school starting staff, don't you think?
Yes.
Now, Kershaw, from a historical perspective, you want Kershaw to be more important because he's one of the great Dodger pitchers of all time, with Koufax, with Drysdale, with Sutton, Valenzuela, and Hershiser. But this is only his second start of the season, so he's building himself back, whereas Flaherty arrives fully formed right now this year. So to me, you get Flaherty right now fully formed. That's more important than this one start that Clayton Kershaw is going to have. Come back to me in September, you know, but this one start, I'm not going to place a lot on, and I don't think you are either.
And by the way, Tone, no, I agree with you there. Flaherty, if the Dodgers want to keep him, they're going to keep him. The Dodgers The Dodgers do now what the Yankees used to do. The Dodgers get and keep whoever they damn well please. And you mentioned Flaherty's, I mean, grew up right there in the shadow of Dodger Stadium. If they want him, that's where it'll be.
All right, let's take a break. But coming up, Buster only believes that we could see player movement beyond the trade deadline, and we will ask him how that will work.
Yeah, trade deadline in baseball is such a phony phrase, fraudulent. We'll also ask him where the hope might be for the absolutely forlorn Chicago White Sox. Man,
yeah. I do find myself rooting for Clayton Kershaw because he is a fixture in the Dodger history. He's a very, very important player,
yes.
right?
Discover.
Let's dig back into the aftermath of baseball's trade deadline with our great friend ESPN senior writer Buster Olney. Let's do the general question first. Which teams in your mind do you believe upgraded the most with the deals they made?
Tony, I would go with two teams in the National League West. First, the Los Angeles Dodgers do what they usually do, adding across the board Jack Flaherty, the best available starting pitcher. But to me, the most impressive team was the San Diego Padres because they absolutely loaded up on their bullpen, making a deal with Tampa Bay for Jason Adam, trading for Tanner Scott, the best available left-handed reliever. Look, we've seen in October in recent years that with all the off days, you can win with just a couple of starters and a great bullpen, and that's what the Padres have now on top of Manny Machado. And so many other great players on that roster. Dylan Cease, Luis Arise, A.J. Preller, their general manager, went for it at the deadline this year.
Buster, contenders were at the heart of this flurry of pre-deadline movement, but of the contenders, is there somebody you think should have, could have done more?
Yeah, the Baltimore Orioles, who seem to settle for middle-of-the-rotation type answers for their needs at starting pitcher. Look, the closest comps to where the Orioles are now, loaded with position players in the last 10 years with the Chicago Cubs and the Houston Astros. What'd the Cubs do? They spent $155 million on John Lester. They traded for Jake Arrieta. The Astros traded for Justin Verlander on top of Dallas Keuchel. The Orioles don't have those dominant type starters as they move forward. Corbin Burns is a free agent after this year. At some point, Mike Elias, their general manager, has to dip into that great farm system that they have and build a starting rotation that can win in October.
We're going to ask you to divert here, go way off road, and ask you about a team that is not a contender by miles, and that's the Chicago White Sox, who, Buster, I've been saying that they're the worst team I have ever seen in my life. They just lost their 17th consecutive game today. Is there a path out that you see for them? Have you ever seen a team this bad?
No. Look, their historical comp is clearly the 1962 Mets, who are an expansion team, and they finished 40-120. And it's going to be an open question as to whether or not the White Sox are going to get to 40 wins by the end of the year. And what's really scary is they traded most of their best players before the deadline. They didn't make a deal with Garrett Crochet, but I think you make an argument that they should shut him down. There's no point in having an all-star left-hander pitch the rest of the year. They should put him on ice, save him for the winter, keep his trade value intact, and make a deal then and try to get pieces that'll move them forward.
Wow.
I have to admit, Buster, I'm reeling a little bit by your takedown of the Baltimore Orioles. I've been sitting here for a couple of days thinking, well, they picked up a couple of starters. That's really going to help them. So this is a perspective that I wasn't used to. We'll get you out of here on this. You wrote that we could still have player movement. I didn't know how that happened. How would that work with player movement?
Yeah, and Tony, in theory, Major League Baseball made rules that eliminated August trades. But you guys remembered what happened with the Angels last year. Artie Moreno, their owner, made the decision that they were going to keep Shohei Ohtani rather than trade him. Then they made a series of trades to try to win, and then they proceeded to lose like all their games at the beginning of August and fell out of it. And Moreno's response was basically like a kid tipping over a board game. It wasn't going well, and so he put a bunch of players out on waivers at the end of August. And they were claimed by teams like the Cleveland Guardians, like the Cincinnati Reds. And while that made a lot of people queasy in the sport, they didn't put in a rule to stop that. So in talking with executives around baseball the last couple of weeks, they're telling me the same thing will happen. As contenders fall out of races, they may start dumping players out into the waiver market. That's something that's banned in fantasy football leagues, but not in Major League Baseball.
That's good to know. Buster, as always, thank you so much.
We'll have you back for that, Buster. Thank you.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, another setback for Mike Trout. That's sad.
No,
That's sad.
say it ain't so. And the Bears make an unprecedented financial commitment.
Oh, did they finally start to pay you for saying how good they are all these years?
How good? You don't. What show are you participating in?
Oh, you're the one tamping up the Caleb Williams stuff. You said yesterday, tamp it down. You spent a year tamping it up. Oh, can we get him? Can Carolina lose?
I spent
can we get
2
Caleb?
years saying keep Justin Fields. So thanks for paying attention.
Oh, no.
Tonight.
Happy time, people. Happy 50th birthday, Jonathan Ogden. He's a local for us, Wilbon. The 6'9", 345-pound tackle went to St. Albans in D.C. From there, Ogden went across the country to UCLA, where he won the Outland Trophy for Best Interior Offensive Lineman in college football. Ogden was the 4th overall pick by the Ravens in 1996. He played all 12 of his NFL seasons in Baltimore, and he was on their Super Bowl championship team in 2000. Ogden was first-team All-Pro 4 times, second-team All-Pro 5 times. He was in the Pro Bowl 11 times, and he was elected to the Hall of Fame in 2013.
Tony, I remember when J.O. would come to the Washington Post newsroom, we worked with his dad, Tiny, who was on the high school desk a million years ago, and it's cool now to see Jonathan out here in Arizona where Tony plays golf. Jonathan likes to tee it up in the desert. You think he can hit it a long way? You want to get into a driving contest with Jonathan Ogden?
No, I can't drive 150 yards anymore, but it's a big swing plane. You got to keep that together. Happy anniversary, Kevin Garnett. On this day, 17 years ago, the best player in Minnesota Timberwolves history was traded to the Boston Celtics for 5 players and 2 first-round draft picks. The bold move paid off for Celtics GM Danny Ainge, who also traded for Ray Allen and put Allen and Garnett together with Paul Pierce and won an NBA championship. There is lingering bad blood between Garnett and Timberwolves owner Glenn Taylor. Garnett believes Taylor reneged on a deal to make him a minority owner. Garnett's number 21 jersey has never been retired in Minnesota. Although Garnett retains his affection for the city and the team, he says he won't return for any ceremony.
Look, Kevin Garnett may get passed up maybe by Ant-Man or Karl Anthony Towns or somebody someday in the future. Kevin Garnett's the greatest player in the history of that franchise. The number should have been retired. Somebody's got to find a way to bridge that. You can't not. Kevin Garnett is in the rafters there. He's got to be.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if he went back, it would work. They're just going to hang it without him. They could do that, I guess. Happy trails, Australia. The Aussie women's soccer team is out of the Olympics now, following its 2-1 loss to the United States women today. The U.S. had already clinched a spot in the quarterfinals after beating Zambia and Germany by a combined score of 7-1. Meanwhile, Canada lost its appeal of those 6 points it was docked in the drone spying scandal, then faced Colombia this afternoon and won 1-0, and that means the Canadians improbably advance to the quarterfinal round. That is clutch, Mike. That is clutch.
That's sort of amazing, Tony. Well, let's spin this forward a little bit in terms of women's Olympic soccer. The U.S. gets Japan next. And if we win that game, and Japan's formidable, I mean, that's no given, then we would get the winner of Germany-Canada. Have already beaten Germany, but we would get the winner of Germany-Canada. Maybe Canada wins and we can have a little, little neighboring warfare. Maybe.
It's an interesting thing with the Canadians. I thought that punishment was way too harsh. You took away their 2 wins, in effect, forcing them to have to win a 3rd game, and they won that 3rd game.
They did.
They won it without
up.
Their normal coach. That's plucky, as we say in the trade. That really is. Let's go to the big finish. Your Bears and DJ Moore, who you love, agreed to a 4-year deal with $82.6 million in guarantees. Is that significant?
Yeah, but for different reasons. I don't care. For me, I don't care that it's the biggest contract in Bears history. We got Rome Odunze and Keenan Allen and DJ Moore in that wide receiver room, that could be the best trio in the game for our rookie star quarterback, Caleb.
But I thought you wanted to tamp it down. I thought you were tamping it down.
Why?
You're beating the drum for them like Ringo Starr.
I'm not playing them tomorrow night. I'm not playing them. I'm just leaving them on the sideline in their capes.
Go ahead.
Angels have shut down Mike Trout, Tone, after a setback in his recovery from a knee injury. I know this pains you.
Yeah, our thoughts are the same. It's sad, and you have to wonder, is it maybe over? You don't want it to be, but you'll wonder. Americans Austin Krajicek and Rajiv Ram eliminated Alcaraz and Nadal from the Olympic doubles. You surprised by that?
A little, but strange things happen in Olympic tennis. And golf and Pegula are out as well. Speaking of doubles, American team is out. The NFL will use Hawkeye instead of the chain gang during some preseason games. You good with that?
No, old guys are out of work. Last one, Simone Biles named the U.S. women's gymnastics team the Golden Girls. You like that?
I kind of do. Oldest gymnastics team for the U.S. since 1952. Only one teenager. You know, just saying.
It's not like any of them are 30, though. We're out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Robon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get everything on the ESPN app or Apple Podcast. Your sports.
PTI. This topic.
All right, Wilbon. Where does Katie Ledecky rank in Olympic history?
Ooh, Tony. Let me introduce a very official category called Way Up There. That's how I'll describe where Katie Ledecky belongs. They can bring out a gold jacket, whatever you want to do. But Katie Ledecky, and I'm not just talking about swimmers, because yes, you could confine it and just talk about Mark Spitz and Michael Phelps and Janet Evans. You could do that. But I'm going to expand it if we're talking about other American Olympians and include, of course, one of our favorites, you and I, Carl Lewis. Going back before that, Jesse Owens, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, Florence Griffith Joyner, Michael Johnson. You can do that, and then you can expand it to include international greats. Ian Thorpe, speaking of people in a pool, Usain Bolt, Alexander Karelin, the wrestler, the Russian bear. People should look him up who won't know that because we go back with the Olympics a long way. Way up there, Tony, with the all-time greats. And she's still going. She wants to compete in L.A. in 4 more years and beyond. Katie Ledecky was certainly one of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to stick with women swimmers because over the history of the United States, there are a bunch of names, and people, depending on their ages, will recognize the names. Jenny Thompson, Natalie Coughlin, Janet Evans, Donna Di Verona, Dara Torres, Missy Franklin. Has she eclipsed them all? I don't know that she's eclipsed them all, but she's been great for a long period of time. She's 27 years old. The shorter distances now, Ariane Titmus can beat. We've seen that, and that happens. There's always some young gun that comes along and takes down somebody older, and it happens in the history of sports all the time. But what Katie Ledecky did today in the 1500, she won by half a pool length. That was second place. Half a pool length behind.
Margin.
Okay.
Insane.
She owns this event. She has the 20 fastest times of all time in this event, and she wants, as you say, to keep swimming. 27 years old. You know, 30, 40, 50 years ago, that was unheard of. Olympic athletes didn't make any money, not legal money, so they got out of the Olympic athlete game. Now they make money and they can stay in. But your body lets you down at some point. 27 seems like a long way out there for swimming, but I know you root for her, and I root for her too. She's a great Olympian. Yeah.
12 years ago, I think I was in London, and Katie Ledecky, here's somebody from Bethesda, Maryland. That's the address I call home. And it's like you have this high school girl at Stone Ridge High School down the street from where I live, and Katie Ledecky is going to race you like, oh my God, I know she's good. I know she qualified at a really young age. How great is she going to be? Boom! Great from day one and still great.
Yeah.
That margin you mentioned today, unbelievable visually to see that. So I'm expanding it. I threw out those other names, and I absolutely believe that she belongs with them in the Pantheon. That's it.
I'm very
done.
excited to hear you say Bethesda, Maryland is where you call home, because I would have guessed Arizona or Chicago or LA or New York.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's good that you put it out there. That's good to know.
It's about like you in Washington, D.C. and, Delaware and, places presidents live. Back to you.
Hope you're paying taxes out there. Yeah.